Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and you're watching
DONTAE'S Boxing Nation.
DONTAE'S Boxing Nation.
DONTAE'S Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Well, it looks like USA goes 1-0 against Russia. Congratulations to Terence Crawford for pretty much winning the Super Bowl in his division by dominating Victor POSTOL in a sensational performance. Now, before I go any further, let me go ahead and give a shout out to my man Mikey Williams for the photos. These photos you guys are looking at right here, that's from photographer Mikey Williams. You guys can go ahead and follow him on Instagram at 4MikeyWilliams. That's the number 4 Mikey Williams. Also, you guys have to excuse me for dropping this post-fight video so late. I got extremely busy after the fight. I covered the fight live, and let's just say I got really busy. So I'm finally getting some free time to drop this post-fight video. Now let's get to this fight. Now, like I said when I started this video off, I said USA goes 1-0 against Russia because we all know two of the biggest fights this year, the most significant fights, is Crawford versus POSTOL, and later on, Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev. And that fight is for the battle of supremacy. Whoever wins that fight is hands down the undisputed pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. So this is pretty interesting. Now, and I use that USA versus Russia reference for a couple different reasons. One is, when I was actually watching the fight live, I had a reporter that was sitting about 2 seats away from me, and we were watching the undercard fights because Robert Garcia, he has a former Soviet Union fighter that I think he's from the Ukraine. I'm not sure. But anyway, he's an undefeated prospect. And as he was fighting on the undercard, this reporter, he was talking about the emergence of the Eastern European fighters and how they're so good, etc., etc., etc. And I agree. There has been a huge emergence of Eastern European fighters. I should say former Soviet Union fighters. They're all good fighters. Now, what the reporter basically was telling me is they're so impressive and dominant right now, the Eastern European fighters. The question is, are the American fighters just fading out? This is what he's asking me. This is what he's saying. I shouldn't say this is what he's asking me. This is pretty much what he was saying. It almost seems like the American fighters, you know, the Mayweathers, the Sugar Ray Leonards are fading away. And I told him, it's funny you say that, because this year we're going to really get to see how good these American fighters are versus the former Soviet Union fighters. Because once again, this year we have two of the most significant fights, and coincidentally it happens to be USA versus Russia. Right? And Terence Crawford, he set it off this weekend, dominating Victor POSTOL. Let me tell you guys why this was such an impressive performance. First of all, gotta give credit to the fans that flew out here from Nebraska, because Terence Crawford had thousands and thousands of fans that flew out here from Nebraska. I actually talked to a couple of the fans, and they actually told me, they said it really sucks because I think it was Southwest Airlines and another airline that was having some type of problem where they said thousands of fans actually were forced to turn back around and go home because they couldn't get their flight to Las Vegas. This fan that I talked to in particular, he told me that he had to drive like hours and hours from another state. He said, that's how big of a boxing fan I am. He said, because it would have been easier for me to just turn back around. But that's what a lot of other people did, you know, but he said, I'm too much of a fan. So I was willing to do whatever it took to make it to this fight. And the atmosphere was electrifying because you had the cheers. It felt like we were at like a basketball game. It felt like we were at a homecoming basketball game. The cheers were so loud. Every time when there was an exchange, the crowd was all into it. And you know, this fight was interesting because even when there was nothing really going on, because there was a lot of posing in like the first two or three rounds, basically. You could see both guys, because they're so intelligent, it's a chess match and they're really trying to figure each other out. But to me, it was still one of those fights where everyone was on the edge of their seats, because there was this sense of danger. You could just tell that someone is about to land something clean and somebody is about to get hurt. That's how it felt, even when they were trying to size each other up. The question was, who's going to get caught and who's going to get hurt first? And obviously, that turned out to be Victor Postol. All of a sudden, because it looked like in the first couple of rounds, we already know Terence Crawford, he starts off slow all the time. But it almost looked to me at first like Terence Crawford was having a hard time dealing with the range of Victor Postol. But out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Terence Crawford, he starts to find his range perfectly. And you could just see around round 4, or right before Terence Crawford knocked down Victor Postol, you could just see Crawford warming up, just warming up. And soon as that blueprint printed out, that's when Crawford started going to work. And this is when he knocked Postol down. After Crawford knocked down Postol twice in round 4, it was all downhill for Victor Postol. See, this is the difference from Crawford and Victor Postol. And a lot of us knew this going into this fight. But Victor Postol is a more, you know, straight up and down, no special effects type of fighter. He doesn't have those different dimensions. He doesn't have a plan A, and if A is not working, he could just go to B or C. He doesn't have that. Victor Postol only has plan A. Terence Crawford, the reason why he's such a special fighter, he has so many different plans. He has plan A, B, C, etc. Right? Because Terence Crawford, as far as I'm concerned, the reason why this was such an impressive performance is Terence Crawford, he actually beat Postol at Postol's own game. Postol is usually the guy that's moving around the ring, hit you with a punch, tie you up. He's usually playing the role of the boxer. In this fight, Crawford surprised a lot of people by playing the role of the boxer. But the difference is, while Terence Crawford was playing the role of the boxer, realistically, if you think about it, he was the aggressor even while he was circling around the ring. Why? Because Terence Crawford was the person that was mainly getting off first. Victor Postol, that's the true definition of ineffective aggression. When you just keep circling someone, but you will not let your hands go. And matter of fact, Victor Postol and Freddie Roach, they both admitted the reason why they were so reluctant in the fight. They said because Terence Crawford was fast and he was strong. So that made Victor Postol extremely gun shy. So you're following a guy around the ring, but you're respecting his power, his skills, and his speed so much that you don't even want to let your hands go in fear of you getting caught and getting hurt. This shows you guys how limited of a fighter Victor Postol is. See, Victor Postol, once again, he doesn't have those extra levels where he can find a way to close the gap and get closer to Terence Crawford. But Terence Crawford, he showed Victor Postol how you're supposed to close the distance in that 12th round when Terence Crawford, he engaged and he went toe to toe with Victor Postol. And what did Victor Postol do? Victor Postal backed all the way up to the ropes. He stayed away from Terrence Crawford. So once Victor Postal got what he claimed he wanted, he actually got hurt in the 12th round, and he got out of Dodge real quick. Terrence Crawford, he showed Victor Postal how you get in there and close the distance. When I seen Terrence Crawford go into that high guard, it reminded me of Floyd Mayweather. Because when Floyd Mayweather is like in aggressive mode, like say for example, if you guys notice, when Floyd Mayweather fights other boxers, he's usually a lot more aggressive. Like when he fought fighters like Zab Judah, Chop Chop Corley, Sharmba Mitchell, just to name a few. A lot of times when Floyd is facing a guy that he knows is quick, he knows is a little crafty, Floyd, he abandons the shoulder roll defense and he goes into the high guard. That's exactly what Terrence Crawford did in the 12th round. Terrence Crawford, he came straight forward and he said, let's go toe to toe. And he started hurting Victor Postal. And Victor Postal, he had to get up out of there with the quickness. Terrence Crawford was able to dominate Victor Postal in every aspect of the fight. I mean, that is just so crazy to me. How do you go to the press conference, and I'm talking about Victor Postal. This puzzles me. How do you go to the press conference and have the nerve to say, I tried to give fans a fight, I tried to be aggressive, but it was Crawford that didn't want to fight, etc., etc., etc. Soon as you get an opportunity to go toe to toe, guess what? You're the one that's now bouncing on your back foot, moving away, and it's Crawford that's looking at you like, where are you going? I thought you wanted to go toe to toe. So that completely kills that argument, and there's no one who can sit here and say, oh, he just ran, etc., etc., because the most effective, aggressive fighter in this fight was Terrence Crawford. You don't get any credit for following someone around the ring and not throwing any punches. You can't get credit for being aggressive. Once again, when you are looking at a special talent, a special fighter like Terrence Crawford, this is a type of fighter, you see the difference when Terrence Crawford is aggressive, right? As opposed to when Postal was supposed to be aggressive. Well, when Postal was just following and following, he was still very reluctant to let his hands go. When Crawford came forward and he was being aggressive, he let his hands go. Not only did he let his hands go, but he was hurting Postal. Now, something else that Crawford was doing that was so impressive in this fight is he was tearing Postal up with those check right hooks and those lead left hands. I mean, I truly thought if the fight would have ended, it probably would have ended by one of those check hooks, because man, he was nailing this guy every time he came in, and those check hooks just kept looking better and better as the fight progressed. He hurt, I would say he probably hurt Victor Postal, he was hurting him throughout the entire fight. What makes fighters very special, what separates a average good fighter from a special fighter, is their ability to negate a person's best attribute. In other words, whatever is your best weapon, if you could take that weapon away, this is what makes a fighter a special fighter. We've seen this with Floyd Mayweather taking away fighters' best weapon. We see Andre Ward do it. And this is what we've seen Terrence Crawford do this weekend. He even said it in the post-fight press conference. He said, you know, when I was in the southpaw stance, I took away Victor Postal's jab. And Crawford said, I was waiting for Postal to throw that right hand because he knows that that's Postal's bread and butter. But Postal was really reluctant to let it go because Crawford was so quick to counter him. So he took away Postal's best weapons, his best two weapons, which was the jab and the right hand. This is what I mean once again when I say Postal, is a straight up and down type of fighter. No special effects. What Victor Postal wants to do is he wants to set you up with a right hand. That's pretty much his whole game plan. Set you up with the right hand. There's not too many check hooks you have to worry about. He doesn't feint. And that was another thing I noticed. He used no feints. He kept coming forward. I mean, when you're fighting against a counter puncher, that's the main thing you want to do, is you want to feint a counter puncher. Because if you feint them out of position, then they can no longer time you. But once again, Postal didn't have those dimensions. So this was a very, very impressive performance. And once again, man, I gotta emphasize on that 12th round. Talk about closing a show. How often do you guys see fighters do that? They've already dominated the fight. Dropped the guy twice, has him looking all beat up and discouraged, frustrated. And the only chance this person has of winning the fight is to land a lucky shot in the last round. And what does Crawford do? He comes forward and he says, let's go toe to toe. And who gets hurt? And who starts to move away when they claim that they tried to give fans the fight they wanted? It was Victor Postal. It was Victor Postal. So Terrence Crawford showed that he could beat Victor Postal in every aspect of the game. Terrence Crawford possesses a dangerous array of weapons. You have a fighter with the natural athleticism, the rhythm, the reflexes. He can switch from righty to lefty. He has a pretty good defense. He can fight on his back foot. He can fight on his front foot. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. On top of all of that, he has power where he can knock you out. That is a very dangerous combination. I think it's going to be very difficult for Terrence Crawford to find tough, undefeated opponents that are really willing to get in the ring with a talent like this. He's too skilled. He's just too damn skilled. He's too dangerous. And it's crazy because when you really think about it, the fighters that you should be actually going after are the guys all the way at the top, right? But after that kind of performance and the other performance we've seen by Terrence Crawford, people are going to be saying, you know what, I'm okay to just be second or third. I'm not even going to try to risk trying to fight for the number one spot in this division. I'm okay being, second or third or fourth or fifth, right? So that's pretty much what it is. Oh yeah, and we will be doing the radio show this week on Tuesday. It'll probably be uploaded late Tuesday night. We actually did the radio show this week, had a real good show. Shout out to my man E King Fight News, AK, Arab King, and Boxing Ego. We had a really good show, but unfortunately there was some technical difficulties and I decided not to upload the video. We had a very good breakdown on this Crawford Postal fight and we talked about a lot of other stuff. But we'll make up for that. Like I said, we'll drop the next show next week and we'll take it from there. That's all I got, guys. On to the next one.